I wasn't angry when I asked. I wasn't dramatic. I just needed help. They laughed. Not awkwardly, not nervously. Like it was obvious I shouldn't have asked in the first place. That was the moment I understood something clearly. It would be the last time I ever asked them for anything. I didn't ask for help often. That's important to understand. I'd learned early that asking came with conditions, explanations, judgment, and eventually dismissal. So when I did ask, it meant I was already past what I could handle alone. My name is Hannah Reed. I was 33, working in project coordination and balancing more than I ever let on. Bills that didn't wait, deadlines that didn't care. A quiet, constant pressure I kept managing because that's what I'd always done. I didn't want sympathy, I just needed help. I chose my moment carefully. I waited until things were calm, until no one was stressed, until I could explain it clearly and reasonably. That's what I'd been taught. If you ask the right way, people listen. I told them exactly what I needed. Not money forever, not rescue, just temporary support. Just something to steady me while I got back on my feet. I kept my voice even. I didn't dramatize anything. I explained. My mother looked at my father smiled, and then they laughed. Not uncomfortable laughter, not nervous laughter. The kind that says this is ridiculous. My father shook his head. You always make things harder than they need to be. My mother added, you'll figure it out. You always do. Like that was a compliment. I stood there for a second longer than I should have, waiting for something else. Clarification, concern, even a question. Nothing came. That's when it hit me. They weren't laughing because my situation was funny. They were laughing because my need inconvenienced the version of me they preferred, the one who never asked. I nodded. I didn't argue. I didn't explain further. Because suddenly I understood something with complete clarity. Asking again wouldn't change anything. It would only give them another chance to laugh. That was the moment I stopped asking. Not dramatically, not out loud, but permanently. And what I didn't realize then was that this decision, this quiet withdrawal, was going to change the balance of everything that came after. At first, nothing happened. That surprised me. I stopped checking in, stopped updating them, stopped mentioning when things were hard, and the world didn't collapse. I figured they might notice eventually. Ask how I was doing, offer help unprompted, acknowledge that maybe laughing hadn't been the right response. They didn't. What changed instead was the expectation. They still assumed I'd manage. If something needed handling, it somehow landed back on me. If there was a problem, I was expected to figure it out. Quietly, efficiently, without complaint. The difference was that now I wasn't asking anymore. The first real shift came when I didn't fix something. A situation came up, one I normally would have flagged early, explained carefully, and asked for support with before it turned into a bigger issue. I didn't say a word. I let it unfold. When they found out, they were annoyed. Why didn't you tell us? My mother asked. I looked at her and said calmly, you laughed the last time I did. She frowned like she didn't remember, or maybe like she didn't want to. They reframed it immediately. That was different. You're holding on to things. You can't expect people to read your mind. All familiar lines. What was different was that I didn't engage. I stopped offering explanations in advance, stopped preparing justifications, stopped translating my needs into something palatable. If something couldn't be handled without support, it simply didn't get handled. And for the first time, the consequences didn't land on me alone. That's when the comments started. You seem distant lately. You don't open up anymore. You're shutting us out. They said it like concern, but it sounded like loss. I realized something uncomfortable. They didn't miss me. They missed access. They missed the version of me that absorbed pressure so they didn't have to. My father tried to joke about it once. "Well, I guess you're too proud to ask for help now." I met his eyes and said, "I learned." He didn't laugh that time. Without my constant explanations, silence filled the space. And silence has a way of revealing things words usually cover up. Who steps in, who doesn't, who benefits from things staying exactly as they are. I wasn't punishing anyone. I wasn't teaching a lesson. I was conserving something I'd been spending without realizing it, my energy. And once I stopped asking, it became clear how much of the relationship had depended on me needing less than I actually did. Once I stopped asking, they started noticing, not right away. But slowly, in the gaps where my effort used to be, things went unresolved longer than they were used to. Decisions stalled, plans fell apart, problems lingered without being smoothed over. And for the first time, I wasn't stepping in to absorb the discomfort. My mother called one afternoon, her tone careful. "You've been quiet lately," she said. "Is something going on?" I considered explaining. I considered walking her through everything. The pressure, the exhaustion, the moment they laughed. Then I remembered how that conversation had already gone. "I'm fine," I said. She didn't like that. The concern turned into irritation. "You don't talk to us anymore. You don't let us help. You're shutting people out." They framed my withdrawal as the problem, not the reason for it. My father was more direct. "If you need something, you should just ask," he said one evening, like this was a new idea. I looked at him and replied, "I did." He paused, then he shrugged. "That was a long time ago." That's when I understood something clearly. To them, time erased responsibility. To me, it clarified it. They tried humor again. Lighter this time. Jokes about me being independent. Comments about how I never need anyone. I didn't laugh. Because independence built on dismissal isn't strength. It's survival. The real tension came when something big happened. Something that would normally have sent me straight to them for support. I handled it myself, quietly, without commentary. When they found out later, they were offended. "Why wouldn't you tell us?" my mother asked. I answered honestly. "Because I didn't think you'd take it seriously." That sentence landed hard, not because it was cruel, but because it was accurate. After that, the dynamic shifted again. They became cautious around me, measured, like they weren't sure what version of me they were dealing with anymore. And the truth was, neither was I, because the version of me who begged to be taken seriously no longer existed. I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. I was done performing vulnerability for people who treated it like a punchline. And the more I stayed quiet, the clearer it became. They hadn't laughed because they didn't care. They'd laughed because they'd never expected consequences. Once you remove access, humor stops being funny, and dismissal stops feeling harmless. That's when I knew this wasn't temporary. I wasn't taking space. I was changing the rules. I didn't announce the decision. I didn't warn them. I just stopped asking. And over time, that silence became permanent. They still assume I'm managing fine. They still tell people how independent I am. They still laugh when they talk about how I've always figured things out on my own. What they don't say, what they don't acknowledge, is why. The truth is, I didn't stop asking because I didn't need help. I stopped asking because the cost was too high. Every request came with an evaluation. Every need became a joke. Every moment of vulnerability was treated like a weakness instead of a signal. That kind of laughter teaches you something quickly. Not that you're wrong for needing help, but that you're unsafe showing it. They've asked since then why I don't come to them anymore, why I don't share details, why I seem distant. I don't explain. Because explaining would require reopening a door I closed deliberately. Life on my side grew quieter, not easier, clearer. I learned which problems were mine to carry, and which people were never meant to carry anything with me. I stopped offering access to parts of myself that had been dismissed one too many times. They think the moment passed. They think it was small. They think it was something that could have been talked through. But moments like that don't fade. They settle. They teach. My parents laughed when I asked for help. They thought it was harmless. They thought I'd ask again. I didn't. Not because I was dramatic, not because I was stubborn, but because once someone shows you they find your need amusing, the safest thing you can do is stop offering it to them. That was the last time I asked, and it wasn't a loss. It was the moment I stopped explaining myself and finally understood who I could rely on, including me.